The smell of burnt espresso and fake enthusiasm filled the conference room. Our CEO, Clinton Vale, stood under bright lights, beaming like a proud father. Profits are up 43%, he announced. Exceptional year, everyone. The applause started, polite, measured, mechanical. I'd worked 16-hour days for this moment. Sacrificed weekends with my daughter. Missed my sister's wedding. Then came the punch. However, due to restructuring, bonuses this year will be reduced by 60%. My stomach dropped. 60%. The bonus I'd earned, the one for my daughter's college tuition, had just vanished. Clinton's eyes found me in the third row. He smirked. Especially sorry about this, Claire. Maybe next year, sweetheart. Sweetheart. That word burned deeper than the 60% cut. It wasn't an apology, it was a dismissal. After the meeting, colleagues whispered apologies. That's rough. So unfair. Empty words from people too afraid to do anything. I walked toward the elevator in a daze. Behind me, Clinton's voice echoed from his office, the door left carelessly open. She actually thought she'd get the full bonus? His laugh was sharp, cruel. Hilarious. Did you see her face? More laughter joined his, the inner circle feeding on my humiliation. The smell of his cologne, expensive citrus that he wore like armor, followed me like a taunt. That scent would forever be associated with this betrayal. Something shifted inside me. Not rage yet. Something colder. More calculated. A spark that would become an inferno. They thought I was broken. They had no idea what they'd unleashed. At my desk, I stared at my payslip. Numbers blurred as tears threatened, but I refused to let them fall. Not here. 16-hour days. 70 presentations. Millions in revenue generated. All reduced to crumbs because Clinton decided my contributions were worth 40% less than promised. My throat tightened with suppressed screaming. Around me, the office hummed, keyboards clicking, phones ringing, but everything felt distant, muffled. I wanted to storm into Clinton's office and demand fairness. But instead, I smiled privately. Because in betrayal, there's always one thing more dangerous than rage. Focus. Cold, calculated, patient focus. And I was about to become very focused. That evening, I remembered my father's voice from years ago. He'd been a union organizer who'd fought corporate greed his whole life. When wolves show their teeth, Claire, don't bark back. Take notes. Watch. Learn. Document everything. Because wolves always make mistakes, and when they do, you need evidence ready. Take notes. I'd been doing that my entire career, detailed records of every project, every client, every system I'd accessed. Self-protection in an industry that loved stealing credit from women. But now those notes took on new meaning. I pulled out my personal laptop and began cataloging everything I had access to. Project files. Client databases. Financial reports. System credentials. The architecture of Vale Systems' entire operation. If they could undervalue me so casually, they would underestimate me. That was their first mistake. 2 days later, I was working late, trying to distract myself from constant simmering rage. The office was mostly empty, just cleaning crew and desperate souls chasing deadlines. Walking past the executive conference room, I heard voices. The door was slightly ajar. If anyone finds out we inflated the Q4 numbers, we're done, CFO Nathan Briggs said, voice tight with stress. There could be criminal charges. I froze, heart pounding. Relax, Clinton replied. No one's going to find out. Everything's buried in offshore accounts. Even our own accounting team doesn't see the full picture. Falsified data. Inflated revenue. Criminal activity. Suddenly, my bonus slash didn't feel like a loss. It felt like an invitation. An opportunity. A gift wrapped in betrayal. That night, I stayed late under the guise of finishing reports. The office after dark smelled of dust and toner as I made my way to the records room, a physical archive most people forgot existed. I found what I was looking for: quarterly financial statements. The paper records, compared to public earnings reports, told a completely different story. Fake invoices. Hidden accounts. Revenue artificially inflated by nearly 30%. A pattern of fraud going back 3 years. I photographed every page, hundreds of images uploaded to encrypted cloud storage. Then I carefully returned everything, making sure no one would know I'd been there. Back at my desk, I created a backup drive labeled Vacation Photos 2019 to 2024. Inside were documents that could destroy Vale systems. The question was no longer if I'd use them. It was when, how, and for what price. Sleep came in fragments. They hadn't just cheated me. They'd cheated shareholders who'd trusted them. Cheated clients. Cheated the entire industry. And I held proof. Part of my brain screamed I should report this to the SEC. But another part, the one humiliated in that conference room, wanted something more personal. I didn't plan revenge yet. I wanted them to keep laughing, keep feeling secure. Because nothing tastes better than victory served to people who never saw it coming. By morning, I'd decided. I would watch, wait, and prepare. Let them think I'd accepted my fate. And when the moment was right, I would act. But first, I needed to find someone who could help me use this information in a way that would hurt them most. A week later, Vale Systems hired consultant Ellis Ray, a smug efficiency expert who strutted through the office like he owned it. He appeared at my cubicle on his second day. Claire, right? I'm here to clean up your old system, streamline operations. My old system. The database I'd built from scratch. The platform that won industry awards. My work, about to be claimed by another man. But I smiled sweetly. Good luck with that. Let me know if you need help understanding how things actually work. He didn't catch the edge in my tone. He just nodded condescendingly and walked away. He didn't know the real mess wasn't in my database. It was 2 doors away in the executive suite. But soon, everyone would know. 3 days later, I met Amira Hassan at a downtown coffee shop. She'd left Vale Systems 2 years ago for Vanguard Tech, one of our biggest competitors. I heard about the bonus situation, Amira said, stirring her cappuccino. That's brutal. It is what it is, I replied neutrally. Then, carefully, though I've learned some interesting things about why they're cutting costs. Creative accounting, let's call it. Amira's eyes widened. Creative how? I leaned forward. The kind that would be very interesting to competitors. And regulators. She set down her cup slowly. If that's true, that's market-shaking information. It is. I met her eyes. The question is, what's it worth to know? The words hung between us. I was crossing a line I'd never crossed before. But I felt no guilt. Only cold satisfaction that felt almost like justice. Amira called a week later, voice careful and measured. I spoke with my CEO. Hypothetically. About the situation you mentioned. He's very interested in any information that might shed light on market dynamics. I sat in my parked car, watching rain streak down the windshield. Interested enough to make it worth someone's while? Very interesting. We're talking about a significant consulting fee. 6 figures. 6 figures. More than double my slashed bonus. Enough to make this betrayal hurt them the way they'd hurt me. I need to think about it, I said, though I'd already decided. I'd given Vale Systems my loyalty, my time, my best work. They'd given me scraps and humiliation. I didn't owe them anything anymore. Especially not my silence about their crimes. For 2 weeks, I lived a double life. By day, dutiful analyst, smiling through meetings. By night, methodically preparing to bring down an empire. I spent nights double-checking files, verifying every number, every timestamp, every manipulated figure. I cross-referenced public reports with internal statements. I traced money through subsidiaries and offshore accounts. My office window reflected my face, tired, harder than before, intensely focused. Dark circles had become permanent. My daughter asked if I was okay. I lied. I wasn't stealing, I told myself. I was redistributing karma. Giving Clinton exactly what he'd earned through years of fraud. The rationalization came easily. Too easily. But I'd stopped caring about moral high ground. They'd forfeited my ethical consideration when they'd laughed about destroying my financial security. Around the office, tension built. Clinton started holding private meetings, his voice occasionally rising through walls. Rumors spread about confidential audits and board concerns. He'd sensed something, some instability he couldn't identify. But he didn't suspect me. To him, I was still just Claire, still just sweetheart, safely contained in my cubicle. That was what made this perfect. His blind spot was my advantage. He literally couldn't conceive that the quiet woman he'd dismissed could be the threat he felt but couldn't see. I watched him pace his office, phone pressed to ear, stress evident in rigid posture. Fear looked good on him. Soon, I promised myself. Soon he'd understand what he'd created when he decided my work was worth 40% less than promised. The exchange happened on a Thursday in an underground parking garage that smelled like oil and damp concrete. Amira waited by her car, looking nervous. "Are you sure about this?" she asked as I approached. "I'm sure," I said, surprised by my steady voice. "They made their choice. I'm making mine." She handed me an envelope, thick, containing a check that represented both payment and point of no return. I handed her the drive, small, innocuous, containing enough evidence to destroy a company. "My CEO will review this tonight," Amira said. "It's all verified. Every document authentic. This isn't revenge gossip. This is evidence." She tucked the drive away and started toward her car. Then paused. "Claire? You just shifted an empire. I hope you're ready for what comes next." Rain drummed against the roof, washing away the last remnants of who I used to be. Vanguard Tech moved fast. A week later, they released a comprehensive market analysis report, public, detailed, devastating. Using my data, they'd built an ironclad case exposing Vale Systems' financial fraud. The report detailed inflated revenue, hidden losses, offshore schemes, systematic manipulation going back 3 years. It included internal documents verified by independent auditors. The market response was immediate and brutal. Vale Systems stock plummeted 42% in a single day. Trading halted twice. News outlets picked up the story. Regulatory agencies announced investigations. I watched from my apartment, laptop open, news on TV, strange numbness replacing satisfaction. I'd done this. I'd unleashed this chaos. My daughter was at her father's. I was alone with my choices, my revenge, my popcorn, and a peace that felt almost like victory but not quite. Monday at Vale Systems felt like a war zone. Phones rang constantly. The main floor was chaos, executives shouting, assistants crying, security looking confused. Clinton stormed through hallways like a wounded animal, polish completely gone. Tie loosened, hair disheveled, eyes wild. "Who leaked this?" he screamed. "Someone betrayed us. Find them." I sat at my desk, typing, acting concerned and confused like everyone else. Can't believe someone would do this. It's terrible. The smell of panic, sharp, metallic, filled the office. People whispered theories about the leak. IT department. Disgruntled executives. Corporate espionage. No one suspected me. Quiet, reliable, recently bonus/slashed Claire. I was a victim, not a suspect. They saw what they expected, someone broken, not dangerous. By Wednesday, the board launched a full investigation. HR questioned everyone with financial access. When they called me in, my heart rate barely elevated. I'd prepared for this. "We're interviewing everyone with sensitive data access," the HR director said, flanked by lawyers. "This is routine." They asked about my work, access levels, outside contacts. I answered truthfully, technically. Yes, I had financial access. Yes, I knew people at competitor firms. No, I hadn't shared confidential information. The last answer was technically true. The information wasn't confidential, it was criminal. There's a difference. You had your bonus reduced significantly. "Are you upset with the company?" the lawyer asked, watching my face. I met his eyes steadily. Disappointed? Absolutely. But lots of people got cuts. That doesn't mean I'd betray 6 years of work. Besides, maybe the investigation should focus less on who leaked and more on why the documents showed fraud. By month's end, the damage was catastrophic. Stock down 68%. Major clients cancelled. 3 class action lawsuits filed. The SEC opened a formal investigation. Clinton Vale, CFO Nathan Briggs, and 2 executives were placed on administrative leave pending investigation. I sent flowers to Clinton's assistant. The card, "Hang in there. These things have a way of working out." She probably thought I was being kind. I was being ironic. His corner office sat empty, door locked, nameplate removed. I walked past daily, looking appropriately somber, hiding cold satisfaction. Destruction could be remarkably easy with the right information and willingness to use it. The hard part wasn't pulling the trigger. It was living with what you'd become after. 2 weeks after Clinton's suspension, Vanguard Tech called. Helena Cross, head of analytics, spoke carefully. "We've been impressed by your work, both official achievements and your extracurricular contributions to market transparency. We're expanding our analytics division and looking for someone to head the department. Interested?" The same position I'd been denied at Vale despite being their top performer. Now offered by their competitor, funded by clients they'd lost in the scandal. The irony was delicious. "I'd be very interested," I said neutrally despite the triumph surging through me. "When would you like to meet?" We scheduled lunch. After hanging up, I allowed myself a small smile. Everything I'd been denied was about to be handed to me by the company I'd helped destroy them. 3 days later, Clinton requested a private meeting. I agreed, choosing a neutral cafe. When I arrived, he looked like a shadow, wrinkled suit, uncombed hair, hollow eyes. His signature cologne was faint now, overwhelmed by defeat. "Thank you for coming," he said hoarsely. "What do you want?" He leaned forward, hands wrapped around his cup. "If you know anything about who leaked those documents, please help me. This is destroying everything, my career, reputation, family." For a moment, I almost felt sorry. Almost. Then I remembered Sweetheart. His hallway laugh. Every condescending comment. I leaned forward too, looking directly into his desperate eyes. "You slashed my bonus, Clinton. I slashed your empire. Fair trade." Silence stretched and twisted between us. I watched understanding dawn, shock, disbelief, then terrible comprehension that paled his skin. "You?" he whispered. "But how, why?" "How?" "Because you underestimated me. You thought I was just another disposable employee. You didn't think I was smart enough or angry enough or brave enough." He was shaking now. "But the documents. We're all real. That's the beautiful part. I didn't fabricate anything. I just made sure the truth got to people who could use it. You destroyed yourself. I just provided evidence." He whispered, barely audible, "You ruined me." I picked up my coffee. "No, Clinton. You did that yourself. I just made sure everyone could see what you'd been hiding." I walked out without looking back. No shouts, no footsteps following. Just silence. 3 months later, I testified before Vale Systems Board. The intimidating boardroom, dark wood, leather chairs, oil paintings of previous CEOs, didn't faze me. They asked how I'd discovered the fraud. I explained truthfully, overheard a conversation, investigated, found discrepancies. All true. Just not complete. They didn't ask if I'd leaked to Vanguard Tech. Instead, they thanked me for my integrity in exposing corruption and commended my loyalty to shareholder interests. The irony was thick. They were applauding me for destroying their company, reframing my revenge as corporate heroism. They didn't know my motives, only my results. Board members shook my hand, praising my courage. One suggested a whistleblower award. I smiled and thanked them, wondering if they'd be so complimentary if they knew the truth, that I'd done this because they'd stolen from me first. 6 months later, Vale Systems settled with the SEC. The company was fined $47 million. Clinton Vale, Nathan Briggs, and 2 executives were permanently barred from serving as officers of publicly traded companies. Clinton faced criminal charges for securities fraud and potential prison time. His public apology, issued through his lawyer, was everything I'd hoped, carefully worded to minimize responsibility, saturated with corporate speak that made things worse. But underneath, I heard the rasp of his destroyed ego. Meanwhile, I sat in my new corner office at Vanguard Tech, windows overlooking the city, watching sunset behind buildings that included, visible in the distance, Vale Systems headquarters. They'd sold 2 floors, downsizing to survive. My office was bigger than Clinton's had been. My salary is 40% higher. And every day, I could see the physical manifestation of what I'd destroyed. A year after the bonus announcement, Vanguard Tech held its annual gala. I walked the red carpet in a silver gown chosen specifically for this moment, elegant, expensive, victorious. Cameras flashed. Reporters called my name. The press dubbed me the whistleblower who saved the industry. Articles praised my courage, integrity, willingness to stand up against corruption. I'd been invited to conferences. Business schools wanted to study my case. No one knew I'd done it partially for payback. No one knew about the money Vanguard Tech had paid me. No one knew about the cold satisfaction I felt seeing Clinton's name attached to words like disgraced and criminal. They saw what I let them see, a hero who'd done the right thing. The narrative was cleaner that way. More palatable. As I smiled for the cameras, I wondered if this was how Clinton had felt, playing a role, wearing a mask, presenting a version that served his purposes while hiding who he really was. Late one night, I received an email from Clinton's personal account. Subject line, "You won. Body, I hope you're happy now. You got everything you wanted. I lost everything. Was it worth it?" I stared at that message, cursor blinking. A year ago, I would have fired back angry responses, listing every injustice. But a year had changed me. Made me harder, colder, more honest about my motivations. So I typed. "I didn't win, Clinton. I reclaimed what was mine, my value, my worth, my right to respect. You taught me the world only respects power, so I took yours. Thank you for the lesson." I hit send. Then I closed my laptop, poured a drink, and sat by my window looking at city lights, thinking about choices and consequences and the person I'd become. No anger left. No triumph. Just closure and quiet knowledge that I'd done what I needed to do. 2 years after that bonus announcement, I founded my own consultancy, Morgan Analytics, specializing in corporate ethics audits and financial transparency reviews. The irony was delicious, poetic, and perfect. Companies wanting to avoid becoming the next Vale Systems hired me to examine their practices, identify fraud, and ensure legitimate reporting. I was paid handsomely to prevent others from doing what I'd done. My client list grew quickly. Firms competed for my services, seeing my whistleblower credentials as proof of integrity. Every time I walked past Vale Systems' old headquarters, now occupied by a different company, I smiled. Not because I'd destroyed them, though I had. Not because they'd paid for underestimating me, though they had. I smiled because they'd taught me the most valuable lesson. In a world measuring worth in dollars and power, loyalty is weakness unless reciprocated. Trust is liability unless earned. And revenge, when executed perfectly, looks exactly like justice. Clinton had called me sweetheart and slashed my bonus, thinking I was disposable. He'd underestimated the woman who knew exactly what he was worth, and what he'd done to achieve it. That underestimation cost him everything. It gave me everything. And every time I signed a new contract, looked at my bank account or my office or my life built from his empire's ashes, I remembered that conference room moment. The burnt espresso. The fake enthusiasm. The smirk. The condescension. Maybe next year, sweetheart. I'd made sure there was no next year for him. And I'd never been anyone's sweetheart again. That was the real victory. Not the money or position or revenge. It was knowing I'd never let anyone make me feel small again. Because I'd learned the most dangerous person in any room isn't the one with the most power. It's the one with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. And Clinton Vale had made me exactly that. Please, share, like and subscribe for more.